Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Pretty calm day today, but there is a very low end risk for some severe or even strong storms tonight into the early morning hours of Wednesday. It's a pretty isolated risk, but I thought I'd break it down for you just to give you a heads up because it is happening in the middle of the night. So you're not going to be up for this. And if there is a warning, I just want to give you a heads up that we could see some, especially in the mountains, where we could see some strong storms coming out of Tennessee. So I'm going to start with the wide view first, and it's a pretty complex setup. We've got a lot of fronts on the map today. A couple things to point out to you. We've got this stalled front to the south. As long as that's there, we're not going to see any issues. But it's going to start traveling north as a warm front probably this evening, and that's when our first chance of scattered storms will possibly develop. But everything is really going to hinge on what happens back here. There's one cluster here, and I anticipate another cluster to develop here. They're going to be pushing east and weakening with time, but always the case with this, how much do they weaken by the time they get to the North Carolina mountains? That's always the tough part. Let's put up the severe weather outlook today real quickly. We'll show you what the outlook looks like. You can see most of our areas in low. There's a little bit of a medium risk that moves in here, but I will tell you, this is probably the biggest question mark in here. But right in here, this would be the area of greatest concern. I'll zoom in. I think if we're going to see a severe storm, like a warning or a watch, it could be issued for parts of the mountains right in here, less so over the Piedmont, but it's not zero. It's like what we like to call a non-zero tornado risk. And then we go into tomorrow, this whole system moves off to the east, and you see that risk shift to the east. So let's get into the timing and kind of the ingredients here with our Futurecast. All right, so let's go right to the Futurecast, and I'll show you why the threat for us is pretty isolated. So where there's going to be a significant risk today is going to be over Tennessee and Kentucky. This area has been hit hard the last couple of days. A lot of question marks here, and you'll see this reflected in the guidance, which is a look at our Futurecast here. So we'll go through time. We'll start this morning. I'm going to go a couple hours here into the afternoon. We'll stop this around 3:30, 4 o'clock. Let me stop this at 4:30-ish because this is usually peak heating. Not a lot going on here, but you see two clusters of storms. One that the morning cluster, that's moved up into West Virginia. It's the second cluster we're watching. We'll go through the evening hours. I'm going to stop this around 6 to 7. So what's happening here is sunset tonight is coming up at 8:24. That front to the south is here. It's likely traveling north as a warm front. So we could see isolated to scattered storms along that. Some of those could be severe, especially if we get a lot of sunshine and heating of the day. If that doesn't happen, then there would be less of a risk, but it's isolated at best. You could see as we go through time, this is close to sunset, we get some storms to develop along the warm front. So to me, these are the ones that probably are the ones worth watching the most because at least they're closer to the heating of the day. They would have more fuel to feed off of. But there's a big caveat. Right now, I'm looking at the satellite image, a lot of clouds over us, keeping us cool. So if we don't warm up much today, then those could be squashed as well. And the front's moving quickly, so that's out of here fairly quickly. So we get to about 11 o'clock tonight. I'll back this up because I want you to focus on the west. So to the west, you see all these storms, but watch what happens when they approach the mountains. They almost do a little bit of a split because some of the energy looks like it's trying to travel north, some is traveling south. Either way, I bet this stays filled in a little bit more, and the mountains definitely have a risk between midnight and, let's say, 2 a.m. So this is 2 a.m. It all kind of falls apart. I mean, it doesn't look like much, okay? But again, this is just one piece of guidance, and it kind of shows you the kind of uncertainty that is in the forecast. So that's why I said this is not a huge risk for severe tonight. It's a really isolated. Right now, I'd say it's about a 5% chance of severe. That could trend up all based on what happens this afternoon. Now, let's back this up a little bit because I'm going to try to load the most recent run of the guidance here and see if it's coming in. But right now, it doesn't look like it's coming in. To give you an idea that cluster could probably fall apart with time. So let me turn that off, and I'll show you why. Today I was talking about the cloud cover. You see the clouds over us right now? If these clouds hang tough most of the day, this would really squash a lot of the storm development with that warm front coming north. So for that reason, that's why there's still uncertainty on whether we see many storms at all. A lot of folks, trust me, are going to be completely dry and won't see anything out of today. That's why I don't want to overplay the risk, but just tell you, hey, there's this small chance that we could see a couple strong storms, especially in the mountains and foothills. So a real good way to look at the instability. This is that thunderstorm fuel, or what we call CAPE, and this is the short range guidance here. And I'm going to show you through time. You see that warm front coming north today. We go into the afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock. The warm front's coming north. We get to about 7 o'clock or so. you see some instability there. There's some pockets of fuel for storms, especially in our South Carolina county. So you could see some pockets there. It's certainly not off the charts. It's really isolated. And again, this is probably dictated on where those clouds stay and where they don't. So wherever the sun comes out, that's where you see the Cape or thunderstorm fuel jump up. We go into the overnight hours, watch the fuel starts to shrink a little bit because we're now in the middle of night. So it's getting dark. We have some out there, but it's not nearly as robust as the afternoon. And it stops here roughly around 1 a.m. So 1 a.m., there's just not a lot of fuel. Down in here, there is some, but as those storms approach the mountains, that's why you're seeing the storms kind of fall apart as they push to the east. So it's certainly something we're going to keep a close eye on as we go into the afternoon hours. We'll watch to see what happens to our west. Two things to keep an eye on. Do we see a lot of sun this afternoon? Does the warm front get active? And how does this line set up to the west? But right now, just stay weather aware just in case we see a pop-up storm tonight. But overall, this is not a huge risk of severe. Certainly nothing like we're seeing to the west the last week or so. It's just something to keep in mind for the overnight showers and thunderstorms, especially if you live in the North Carolina mountains, because that's the potential where they could hold on long enough to at least produce damaging straight line winds.